I guess we'll introduce ourselves. For those of you who don't know us, my name's Captain James Vladyka from Fish Hounds Outdoors. I live in Vermont. I'm a charter boat captain. We fish 365 days a year here, or we try to anyways. Lots and lots of opportunities here in Vermont. We're going to be going over how you can use your Navionics mobile app to mark potential spots for this winter. Winter is right around the corner. We only got a couple months left. I know we got the itch to get out and walk on some hard water. So looking forward to showing you guys some of that stuff. This is my man Scott Brower right here, coming to you from Gasport, New York.
Hey everybody, thanks for showing up tonight. We're excited to show some stuff to you guys that perhaps you know about already, or maybe you do in a different way. And during the question and answer period later on, we're going to look forward to some of those questions and kind of get a sense from you, hopefully, what do you want to know beyond what we did in the presentation today. So this presentation, although James did a great job killing himself for the last 45 minutes, I don't have any hair left. But all of his is pretty much gone because the technology always gets funky when we start stuff like this. So bear with us a little bit as we get through this, but we've got some great information from you, and we're real excited. Again, my name's Capt. I live in upstate New York, right between Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. Kind of a self-proclaimed bug nerd. Studied what comes out of fish's mouths. And then with Mackie Plastic, my business, how do we best mimic that bug and then feed it to the fish in a way, with the right jigs and the right presentation to get them to want to eat it. So that's what we're going to talk about later in the presentation as well. But how does all of this play into, that picture of water underneath that we see, from up above or from down and below the water? So we got some great underwater footage of fish. We're going to try to figure it all out for you with you today when we're in this presentation.
Yeah, so bear with us. We literally had this all put together, had some nice videos and stuff, and when we're doing our test here a little while ago, none of the videos would play. So we panicked, or Scott didn't panic, I panicked a little bit, but we think we got everything worked out for you, so bear with us. We're just a couple rednecks with some technology here that like to fish. So very happy to have Scott on board. Anybody that knows Scott knows he's a master at what the fish like to eat and how to mimic that, and has really been a huge part of why I can be more successful, whether I'm fishing in the summertime or in the wintertime, by using the soft plastic baits. So I'm wicked happy to have Scott here, honored to have Scott here. He's one of my very good friends, and we're going to have fun with this. So I hope you guys have fun with us. We're going to get started here, and what we're going to talk about first, we're just going to go, let me minimize my screen here so I can see some stuff. So there's our fancy little thing, but we got an overview here. So we're going to start with the basics, and anybody that already has Navionics already downloaded on either your mobile phone or your iPad, this might be a little bit redundant, but I promise you it's only going to be for a couple minutes of your time. Anybody that doesn't, this is going to be very helpful for you and going to be really a good way to show you how to do that. So after we go over that, we're going to go down and we're going to talk about Google Maps for a little bit and how Google Maps helps us out. Then we're going to kick it over to Scotty, and we got a nice slide there. I believe that slide's in your handouts, right, Scott?
Yes, indeed. If you look at the handout screen down below, you'll see a slide that I put together a while ago, and we'll talk a little bit about how do we find travel corridors, how do we find, weed pockets, and why are they important in the bug world as it relates to fish feeding practices.
Yep. Then we're gonna talk about taking maps to the next level, and really we're gonna just show you how you can go above and beyond from Google Maps, and that's where the Navionics mobile app comes into play. And after we go through that, there's gonna be a about a 10-minute video on that. And the reason why we did it as a video versus slides is it's really hands-on. You'll actually be able to go back and pause this recording of this and step by step see how we did this. And I think that's gonna be a little better than us showing you a slide and talking about it, showing you next slide, because there's stuff in between there you really miss. After that, that video does talk about marking the spot, and then we're going to switch over to aquatic insects. This is going to be like a bonus. This was supposed to be to show you how to use your Navionics mobile app to mark those spots right now, whether you're out in your boat or you're sitting here on your computer or playing on your phone at night. Mark those spots that you might want to go fish in the wintertime. This aquatic insects part is just going to be a big old bonus for you. After that, we're going to finish up with questions. And if you've ever came to one of Scott and my seminars before, we will do a seminar, but we can kind of keep what we're going to feed you for information brief because we don't know. We don't know if all you guys already have the Navionics mobile app. We don't want to be redundant. So I encourage you to ask questions. Scott and myself, you know, that's how we get some of our best information out is if you guys ask questions, then we can do our best to answer them for you.
If you want to, too, you can log on to Facebook if you have any quick questions you want us to do. The reason I keep looking down is I'm monitoring my Facebook for any questions that come up during that process. It might be real quick that way. James can do the same thing. So I just posted a few minutes ago the link to this. So before we get started, if there is any questions or when we get started, feel free. Facebook sometimes is a little bit less laggy than perhaps our question and answer here will be. So
okay, so let's
start
talk
with a
about,
giveaway, Jamie.
we're gonna say, let's give something away. What do we give away?
So today, throughout the broadcast, we're going to give away a bait that Jamie and I worked on together. So a few years ago, we developed a bait together, and it was named the Jamie because he's the one that really kind of came up with the idea on it. And then we built it in a few different sizes. So we want to give some of these baits out as that goes. So Jamie, I don't know if can you see the list of people that are there?
Yeah, it looks like we got
The list of
22
people that are
people
attending.
on right now.
Okay. So
Let me
of
see
these
if I can
list of
find your name.
22 people,
I can see everybody's names
can you
here,
see?
Scott.
Okay, so pick one at random. Just pick the 10th person. Who's the 10th person on the list?
Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I better make sure I do this right so I don't have somebody say I was the 10th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at Drew Miller. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So Jeff Taylor. Jeff Taylor is going to be the lucky winner.
All right, so Jeff, you're going to send me an email at scott@MackeyPlastic, M-A-K-I plastic.com with your address. I'm going to send you out a pro pack. And these are the bags that Jamie and I use.
Ooh, good
They're not
color.
the bags that we sell, but it's a pro pack of Super Jamie so that you can get started fishing with those yourself. So we're going to give away a bunch of that stuff throughout the thing. So stick with us. Go ahead, Jamie. Take it away.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, so let's get this ball rolling here. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you, we're going to go over how, if you do not have the Navionics mobile app, there's going to be a couple quick videos to show you what we got. I did want to talk, before we do the video, if you look over here on the side, you'll see where there's a thing that says questions. Now, Scott and I are going to do our best. If you look on your tools on the side, I'm not sure how your guys' look, but here we have one that says questions. And it brings up a question and answer. So if you guys have a question, actually, we're going to use the chat. Didn't we talk about using the chat instead, Scott?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think we're going to use the chat. So if you guys see where it says chat, that's where you guys are going to ask questions. We'll do our best to monitor them. We encourage you to ask questions. Okay, so let's get a video going here. All right. So this is going to be how to download the Navionics mobile app on your Android devices. Go over here, Navionics Android. That come up, did it, Scott?
I can see it. Yep.
Perfect.
There we go. It's running.
Okay, everyone. So some of you may already have the Navionics mobile app, and some of you may not. This is for the Android platform. To find the Navionics mobile app, I'm going to go down here in the bottom to Google Play Store. I'm going to click up here in the search bar. We're going to type in Navionics. It says Navionics Fishing App on that. As you can see right here, USA I have installed. If you live up by the border, or you possibly from Canada, you may want USA and Canada. For me, I don't get up that way that much, so I just have the Boating USA installed. If you were to purchase the Boating USA in Canada, you could click on that and you see just simply follow the instructions. I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on the one I already have installed, and you'll see it ask me here to uninstall or open. So I'm just going to open that, and that's going to bring me to it. I'm going to back out of this for a second and just show you if I already have the app installed, like I do here. So I'm going to look for the Navionics app on my icons. Mine happens to be right here on the bottom left. I'm going to click on that. So if you already have it, that's how you get into it. And that is how, if you do not have the Navionics mobile app.
Okay. All right, so simple, real simple video there. Just shows you if you are an Android user, whether you have a tablet or you have Android phone, that's how you do it. Now, real quickly, I'm going to get this these videos out of the way. I'm going to move on. The next one is going to be if you have an iOS system. Give me another quick video here. So this was supposed to play. This is the panic button, figuring out how to get them out of the folder thing. We had them in the PowerPoint, but they're not playing. So this is the best we can do. A couple red.
Yeah, this is Plan B.
This is how you download the Navionics mobile app on the iOS platform. We're going to go down to the App Store. Up top in the search bar, we're going to type in Navionics. Pop up at the top here. You see there's some different versions here. Now this is for my tablet or my iPad. If you're using an Android tablet or an iOS iPad tablet, the price is actually more expensive. The phone is $9.99 or $14.99. For the tablets and the HD version, it's going to be $54.99 for the US and Canada, and it's going to be about $49.99 for the voting USA. So as you can see here, it is already downloaded for me, so I'm just going to click open. If it wasn't downloaded, this is where you would tap on it and you would purchase the app. I'm going to click on open to mine, and that is how you get the Navionics app for the iOS system.
Okay. Minimize this. All right, moving on to Google Maps. All right, one more video, then we're going to pull up that slide that Scott has in the handout, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Somebody do me a favor. If you guys can see the chat button, just click something quick in chat so that we know that that's working, if you would.
I'm going to open mine up here too. Let's see here.
I've got mine open, and all I see is one that I sent out. So if somebody could just send a quick chat there so we know we got two-way conversation, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I can see yours in there, Scott.
Okay.
How about the first person to comment? We give away another bag of baits to, Scott. First comment.
Yeah. Hang on one second. So Pam just sent me the screen, and I'm not sure they get the chat thing.
I turned mine off.
She just showed me her phone, and I'm not sure they get the chat screen. So we're going to have to do that on Facebook.
Okay. Let's see here. We got 23 people in here. Haley, I see Haley's on there. Haley, can you see that? Maybe you can shoot me a PM or something if you can't. Haley's another one of our Navionics Marine specialists. So she's on there. She will certainly send me a message.
Go ahead and play that last screen, Jamie.
What's that?
Go ahead and play that last Google one.
Okay, let's do that video.
Yep, run that video.
Okay, a really helpful tool is Google Maps. Now, most anybody that has a smartphone nowadays knows about what Google Maps is. So I'm going to go down here, I'm going to open up Google Maps. And why Google Maps is pretty awesome is because we can go over here, let's see, like Champlain's right here. We can go on and you'll see right now I already have it in satellite view. But if you click this button up here, when you pull yours up, it might possibly come up like this. If it does, what you do is I'm going to click out of that. If you look up here in the top right hand corner, you're going to see a little diamond with another part of a diamond below it. You click on that, and you want satellite view. Now satellite view is handy because what that does is it gives you an overhead view of the lake. So you're going to see right here, let's see, let's go into a spot that I know has got good weeds. So, alright, let's go up in here to Plunder Bay. You know, in Plunder Bay, up along the shoreline, you're going to see there's weed patches and stuff here. So, with Google Maps, you can actually just take and you can find these spots. So you can zoom in here and you can see. See here in the middle, I got thick weeds. Behind the weeds, you got little pockets and stuff. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the presentation, talking about what to look for. But Google Maps, and this is the satellite overview.
Okay. So minimize that. All right, so I had a comment from Daryl. They cannot see that. They can't see the chat here. So I'm not sure how we're going to be able to answer questions. Hopefully everybody has Facebook. Maybe we could go through Facebook and do it that way. I'm going to turn this over to you, Scott, and you can explain this a little bit.
Okay. So on the screen, can you ask Daryl too if he can see this screen? If he can see the slides that we're going through?
He can hear us fine.
Okay.
So Daryl, you want to mess with us?
Right, but I don't know if they can see the presentation. That's the only thing.
Yep, Daryl can see it.
Okay, good. Thank you. So what we have here is that Google overlay of a map, and I have it laid out in a few different points. So if you look at point number 1, and again, I'm not sure you can get to this because if you can't get to chat, you probably can't get to handouts either. But there's a handout section that might come along with this presentation, or maybe you can download it afterwards. I'm not sure. Maybe that's after it's saved. But there is a picture of all of this for you where I can send it to you if you email me. It's Scott at Mackey Plastic. So cross-point travel corridors, you could see these lines that go through the middle of this thing, and they're kind of like straight striations coming out from the shoreline. Now, those could be either created by fish, that the fish travel through those areas so often, or it could be an underwater stream. A lot of times when we're sitting on the water, what we'll see is current moving underneath the water. Even in the ice fishing season, we'll see the weeds going in one direction or another. So there is current down there, even though there's no surface area that's making that happen. But these underwater travel corridors, and Jamie, if you can, flip my screen up real quick, so I want to show what that looks like in an underwater screen.
Okay.
You got it?
Yes, sir. Give me 1 second. Change presenter, Scott Brower. Should be all yours, brother.
Okay. So what you see in the background here, you should see a fish at this point who's eating that bait. Kind of ignore him for a minute. But see where the fish is traveling in from the background? There's a clearing in these weeds. So the weed pocket would be where that fish is actually existing right now. There's small weeds in there. There's a bunch of aquatic insects on the bottom. There is some aquatic insects also on the weeds to the left side. But what you'll see is in that clearing, kind of looks like goalposts up to the upper right corner where that fish is coming through right now. That is a travel corridor. So that's what that looks like when you actually look at it from above. So now if we go back to the main presentation, Jamie, please.
Scott, it looks like you got it said Scott is blocking the video. So I think the picture of you, I think that's on yours, Daryl. Not sure. Maybe you got to go to full screen on that, Scott.
I did go to full screen on that, yeah.
You did go to full screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's maybe play that video again. Let's hide our.
Okay, so I've got the video playing smaller now. Can you see it?
Yep, you can see it. Is that better?
When I went to full screen, that might have been when I blocked it off. So what I was saying before is where that fish is down below here is a weed pocket. You could see the edges of those weeds. In the background, up in this section, is where those fish were funneling in and out of, and that's what a travel corridor looks like from underneath the ice or underneath the water in general. Now, when we go to look at that on a Google map, stay with me for 1 minute, Jamie. So I can go to that same picture that you guys have, and make that a little bit smaller. Can you guys see that? Jamie, can you see that?
I can see it. It's zoomed in, so you're going to have to control minus. There you
go. Okay. So we have this travel corridor going in this direction, and then we have weed pockets. Number 7 is a weed pocket. You can see a big clearing in that. Number 2 and number 3, which you're going to talk about in a little bit, are subtle weed points that are out a little bit farther. Number 5 represents the basin of it. Number 4 is thick vegetation, weeds. So all of these things play into not only the feed characteristics of it, but then also, you know, the travel patterns of fish, the safety in which where bugs will live, and they kind of all play into the food and how the whole food system plays together in underwater.
Definitely. So we're talking, you know, we're sitting here and we're just looking at, you know, an overhead view of Google Maps, and we're looking at these weed pockets and, you know, these travel corridors and stuff that we can see. But we still have to keep in mind that that Google image is updated, and it is updated. I'm not sure what the consistency is of it, but stuff does change. Weeds do die off, water levels do change. So as
Especially
much,
now, yeah, especially now with homeowners associations, like they can go in there and they'll actually, you know, cut the weeds out. So weeds do change, but for the most part, with the Google images, they're every 18 months. So within 18 months, that pretty much that's what happens. So every
okay.
18 months they're updated.
So as well as we're using this as a tool here, you know, there's multiple people are out right now. We're out fishing. I know duck season's coming. We're finishing up our charters for before fall time. As much as it's easy to sit here at home and to do this scouting ahead of time, we encourage you also to, we're going to show you a video showing you how to mark these waypoints with the Navionics mobile app. Remember, if you're out there, I got a charter in the morning. We're going out in the morning. If I'm out there and I see any of these weed pockets, I visually see any of these travel corridors, I see, okay, this weed mass died, or, oh, there's a new weed mass that grew out. The water around here is 4 feet shallower than it normally is. So we're getting weeds that are growing out into deep water that when the water level comes back up, hopefully comes back up, we're going to have a deeper water weed mass than we ever have. And those are the spots where these crappies that are out in the deep water, these are the first places these fish are going to find. And if you have that information that nobody else has, that's just going to help you get on those fish before they come in to the rest. You see how there's the thick weeds, there's the sparse weeds. Well, those outer pockets, they're going to find that before they ever move in to any of these closer weeds. So as important it is to do your homework right now while you're sitting at home, you can pull up the Navionics website and go on there, and there's a web app where you can literally go on and you can see all the bodies of water wherever you are, and you can look at that and find that stuff and find those GPS coordinates right there, right on your computer. So I think we should probably play this video explaining a little bit about what we do, taking it to the next level. So Google Maps, do you have anything you want to add to Google Maps?
No, I'm good with that at this point. We'll talk a little bit more about it after you play the video. Go ahead and play that.
Okay, I'm gonna take,
This is a real in-depth video, and it takes a little bit, but it's great information.
yeah, I don't think there's a way where we could have taken screenshots and talked about them and had it come out as user friendly as the video is. So I'm gonna take the screen back over here, Scott.
Yep.
Minimize us.
So while Jamie's
Okay.
finding that, that last picture that I had up there, when you take a look at it, I don't know if you know this about Google Images, and I forgot when Jamie asked me about it. When you go to the top browser bar, you can actually turn on the GPS number. So as you're finding these points too in the Google image bar, while he's loading this video, the top of your browser bar will actually have the GPS points. So you can literally physically walk right out to those things, or you can turn the map on again once you've found them while you're actually walking out on the lake. And Jamie and I did this last year on Oneida Lake. We may talk a little bit about this in a little bit.
Google Maps and discuss what to look for on the Google Maps. We're going to show you how to take it to the next level. And how we're going to do that is we're going to pull up the Navionics mobile app. So when you downloaded that earlier, or if you have it, we're going to look for that icon. So the icon for me is right here. So I'm going to click on that. And that's going to bring up a map of that Sam Bay that we were looking at in the video earlier. So you'll see now we have a contour line showing us the depths, but we still don't have that satellite overlay. So we're going to go down here to menu. We're going to click on that. Go to map options. then at the top of the page, you'll see it gives you some different options. We're going to click satellite. And if you look down below, you see now that there's this satellite overview is overlaid over the top of that. So now, not only do we have those weeds in those weed pockets and stuff that we were looking at earlier, but now we actually have some depth contours, which could be handy because that can show us where the edge of those weed edges are. So if that weed edge is in 6, 7, 8 feet of water, and maybe more productive than a weed edge that's in 3, 4 feet of water. So we're a lot of the times when we're looking for these crappies and stuff, or possibly the perch, we're looking for those deeper weeds that go out into that 6, 7, 8 feet of water. So this is a good way of being able to tell that. So we're gonna zoom in here a little bit, and you can kind of see this is that boat launch, and you can see where there's no weeds here coming in the channel. You can actually see where the boats mostly go in and out through the weed edge. You can kind of see how in the middle of the weeds are kind of gone in that area that comes out through. So this is handy because now we can look for those fish corridors and those different taller weed that are holding up on the edges of the weed, the thick weed mass there. So you can see here some sparse weeds that are in 7 feet of water. To even go above that and beyond.
So I hate to do this, but I just had a message that it looks like we're coming up in the middle. I'm gonna back up here just for the sake of, I'm not sure if that's happened to everybody or just the folks that are on the mobile phone, but I don't wanna have this all be for nothing. So I'm gonna get rid of Scott and myself. I'm gonna stop showing our screens, Scott.
Okay.
We're
Yep.
showing up in here. So I can bring us back when we talk later, and I'm sure people don't really want to see us anyways. So there's a screen. So if you can go up there too, Scott. And
yeah, we're both showing on the main screen right now. I was watching it before, and we were not on a mobile phone before because I was just watching it.
okay.
It was the app itself for the
Okay.
one I was watching.
All right. So I'm gonna shut webcam off right here. Stop sharing my webcam. So I'm shutting mine off. You can shut yours off too. You see where that is, Scott?
Mm-hmm. We just got to make sure audio still comes through.
Yep. Audio's separate tab. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to that. Daryl's commenting to me here. Apologize, folks. Audio is fine. And did that get rid of a picture, Daryl, so you can see full screen?
These are all the things that you learn together when you're trying to do a new platform of education. It's so much easier sometimes when it's live, but we're hoping that through the winter that we can reach a larger audience and get more information into people's hands.
Okay, so that did work. I'm going to go back and I'm going to start this video over, and we're going to start right from the beginning here, and that should be good. Sorry about that.
Try to click where you were, but there's no sense starting over from the beginning. You're about 3 minutes in.
We're going to show you how to take it to the next level. And how we're going to do that is we're going to pull up the Navionics mobile app. So when you downloaded that earlier, or if you have it, we're going to look for that icon. So the icon for me is right here. So I'm going to click on that. And that's going to bring up a map of that Sam Bay that we were looking at in the video earlier. So you'll see now we have contour lines showing us the depths, but we still don't have that satellite overlay. So we're going to go down here to menu. We're going to click on that. We're going to scroll down to map options. And then at the top of the page, you'll see it gives you some different options. We're going to click satellite. And if you look down below, you see now that there's the satellite overview is overlaid over the top of that. So now, not only do we have those weeds in those weed pockets and stuff that we were looking at earlier, but now we actually have some depth contours, which could be handy because that can show us where the edge of those weed edges are. So if that weed edge is in 6, 7, 8 feet of water, it may be more productive than a weed edge that's in 3, 4 feet of water. So we're a lot of the times when we're looking for these crappies and stuff, or possibly the perch, we're looking for those deeper weeds that go out into that 6, 7, 8 feet of water. So this is a good way of being able to tell that. So we're going to zoom in here a little bit, and you can kind of see this is that boat launch. You see where there's no weeds here coming in the channel. You can actually see where the boats mostly go in and out through the weed edge. You can kind of see how in the middle of the weeds are kind of gone in that area that comes out through. So this is handy because now we can look for those fish corridors and those different taller weed that are holding up on the edges of the weed, the thick weed mass there. So you can see here's some sparse weeds that are in 7 feet of water. To even go above that and beyond, we can click on these advanced map options. So we're going to go back here onto the top, and that same place where we clicked under the satellite view, if you scroll down a little bit here, you're going to see all these different things. So this is something to actually pay attention to. The water level, you're going to leave that at 0. A lot of the times, if the water level's down or up, you could change that. I pretty much leave mine alone because if the water's down a little bit and I find out how much it's offset, I just roll with it. The areas are still going to be the same. Shallow area, got that on 0. Depth shading, got that up to 60. Depth contours, I want to see all the depth contours. But this fishing ranges, this is something that's really neat and very helpful tool. So we're going to click on fishing ranges to enable it. And what that's going to do is that you can see the map down below. We're going to scroll down here, and if you look, it says fishing range name, so you could actually name that. We're not going to bother naming it right now, but where it says 0 to 0 feet, we're going to click on that. What we're going to do is, so I want to highlight an area of the water column so I can, rule out some water that we don't want to fish. So I'm going to go from 0 feet to 5. So from 0 to 5 feet, so just scroll this up here. I want to highlight that water, so I'm going to hit OK. If you look down on the map below, that pink area, that is going to be anything that's from 0 to 5 feet. So if we look, we can still see, that pretty much covers most of the thick weed edge right there, but there's still some other weeds. So we can actually add a range. So we're going to add another one, and then click on 0 to 0 feet. We're going to change that from 5 feet. Now I'm not going to go as big of an increment this time because I think that I'm going to be looking for fish in that 5 foot to maybe 8 feet of water. So we're going to change this to 8 feet here. Okay. Now that's kind of a sand color, so it's not easy to tell the break. So I'm going to change that to this purple color right here. So now you can see anything that is 0 to 5 feet is in that pink. Anything that is in 5 feet to 8 feet of water is in that purple. I'm going to back out of this here. And now you can see I'm going to back out to the map. Now that gives you a good idea now of those depths of water. So 5 to 8 feet of water is anything in purple. So you see, we could back out. It's going to do it on the whole lake, not even just the bay that you're working on, and on both sides of the lake. You see on the left-hand side, that's New York. On the right-hand side, this is Vermont. This is Lake Champlain. So we're going to scroll back in there, and we're going to take a look at that. Now, with that being said, it does do away with our satellite imagery. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to hit menu. I'm going to scroll back down to map options, and then we're going to take the fishing ranges, and we're actually going to turn them off. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll leave 0 to 5 feet of water on, but we'll get rid of the 5 foot to 8 foot of water. So we're just going to take that, and we're going to scroll those back down to 0. And I see that takes away on the map. Now, why I did that is because I don't think I'm going to be marking any spots that are 5 feet or less of water. I know that I'm going to be looking for weed corridors, travel corridors, pockets in the weeds, or weeds that are growing out in that deeper water that don't have much other around them, so just cover weeds. I'm going to back out of this. And what you see here is now you can see I'm going to rule out that pink area. But if I zoom in, now I can see those weeds. I can still see there's some thick weeds there in the 5 feet. But in this area here, I can see there's some nice weeds out here in that 7 foot area that looks like there's sparse weeds. Now I want to try those spots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the cursor right here. So you see if you tap the screen, it brings up a cursor. Then you can slide the screen around to wherever you want. So I like this weed mass right here. I'm going to tap on that weed mass, and then I'm going to tap on this question mark. Now it's going to give me some different options here. It's going to say edit the map or boat to. If I wanted to go to that spot, I could just go to that spot right now by clicking boat to, and it'll take me from wherever I am and draw me a line to get to that spot. But I want to add a marker here. So I'm going to tap marker, and then I want to, if you set it at the current GPS position, that is going to do it where you are. So that would, I'm at home right now, so if I hit set at current position, it's going to mark on top of my house right now. So I don't want to mark it at the GPS position. I want to mark it right where we are on the map. So if you see here, you can name the marker. So I'm going to just subtract this. The more information that you can give yourself when you go back to it, the better. So I'm just going to put, this is a deep water weed outside of weed mass. And I can even put, you know, in 7-ish feet of water. It also gives me the longitude and the latitude of that spot. So I'm going to click add, and it's going to add that pin on there. So we just added that pin onto that deep water weed. I'm going to move on here, down the line here, and see. Now, I like how this deeper water transitions in here. A lot of times we talk about inside turns. Now you can see there's actually an inside turn right here, here, and then this is a deeper water pocket. So I'm going to mark this area right in here. So we're going to pick the cursor, tap the screen cursor, hit the question mark sign. We're going to add a marker there. And I'm going to put inside turn between shallower water. Alright, so that gives me good information of that spot, and I'm going to click add. Now you see that added onto the map. So we could go on and so forth, you know, mark all these spots that we think we're going to fish in this area. This is another one. I'd probably mark this weed patch right here. Looks like there's a hole in the weeds. I'd probably mark that. Going up through this edge right here, looks like the thick weeds meet the deeper water. So right in here, I'd probably make another mark. So after we got done doing all of our homework, putting that stuff on there, and say now it's ice time and we're going back here, we can bring up that cursor, go back to that pin, put it right on top of that pin, hit the question mark, and it's going to show that there's there's a depth contour there, 7 to 8 feet of water. We're going to let's go back here. We're not quite on the pin here. All right, so there we go. Now that you can see how accurate it is, I just tapped on the top of the blue part of the pin there, and it wasn't giving me any of the information, because this will put you within 2 feet, 3 feet radius of exactly where you were. So if I scroll down to the bottom of that pin, watch up top where it says depth area 7 to 8 feet, you're gonna watch that change to deep water weeds outside. Now if you tap on that, it'll bring up that information. So all of our information will be right here. That was a deep water weed outside of the weed mass in 7-ish feet of water. If we were on shore and we pulled this up, this is where we could connect boat to. And I'm at home, so it's gonna actually draw me a line from all the way at home. You can see the line coming down here from the bottom. Okay. So this is going to actually give me an auto route from my house, the safest way to get in here. That's another awesome feature of the Navionics app, is it's going to show a safe course on how to get there from my boat. This is going to go all the way, auto route, all the way back to home. So it shows where we come in, we travel the route all the way to there. But obviously, we would be coming in from this boat launch right here. So if I click go to from the launch, it would just draw me an arrow and put me right on that. So I could literally follow that line right out to that exact spot, and we could fish on that weed mass, months down the road. So that is a great way of scouting ahead of time, finding all those weed pockets and those things with using satellite overlay. You can also do this. We're not sure exactly when this picture was taken, but we know they do update it quite often, so there's a good chance that those weeds are in that same area. But weeds die off, weeds come back. So the same way as you would do this I'm sitting here at my house marking all these waypoints and stuff, you can go out in the boat. While you're out in the boat, you can go to those weed edges, you can find those weed pockets, those weed corridors, make sure that stuff is what it looks like it is on the Google image, and you can mark those points there. You can still add all that information and do that right from the water, and you might even be able to find some better spots, or you might find some stuff on your graph. So that is definitely a good way to get yourself some pre-scouting done using the Navionics mobile app.
Okay. So that was a little bit long, but there's a lot of information in there. Now, I know that was a lot together, but everybody that's signed up for this will get a copy. This is being recorded right now, so you will be able to go back and you'll be able to play this. They're uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you could actually just go back and have your mobile phone in your hand, and you could play by play and pause that and walk yourself through step by step. I really bummed a little bit about the questions not being able to ask.
I actually have a question. I have a question panel up, Bud, and I've been monitoring that since you were done. So since you started that, so I can see them, I believe now. The last one I got was 829, which wasn't really a question. It was just a statement. It was good now. Thanks, John. So if anybody does have a question and you can do that, we can try to answer those as well. So I think I have that figured out, Bud.
All right, so that's good. So how about well, let's do a giveaway. Let's see if somebody will ask a question, just so we know that we can do that, because it'd be pretty handy to be able to answer some questions here. I was gonna kick us over to Facebook Live, but then we have to lose this broadcast. So
no, but if anybody asks a question, somebody just throw a question out there so they know that they're coming through. And whatever the question is you answer, we'll try our best to do that. If there's any that come up, I'll take a look real quick, see if anybody's still awake. All right, so Chuck Fritz asks, can you take pics and save the pin spots, save with the pin spots? So can you take pictures of it and then save them with the pin spots, Jamie?
Okay, you can do that. I think I'm gonna bring my camera back up here. This is gonna be one of those ones I think I could probably show you through my cam, and it would be better for those that don't have the app. So I'm gonna go back to webcam here. I'm gonna share my webcam. All right, share my webcam.
So it's loading. Yep, it's loading your webcam, so I can see you now, but you're good.
Okay, let's see if I could see me. Let's see here, view, options, help. All right, so can you see my phone there, Scott?
Sort of, but you got to turn it more towards the camera, bud. But yes, you've got it in.
So anybody that has, if you're not on your phone, if you're on a computer and you do have your mobile app, you can follow through here. And I'm not sure why I can't see myself. Usually I can see you and I, Scott.
Yeah, you're doing all right. You look good.
All right, so Chuck's question is can you take a picture and save through a pin? And now, if you can see here on the Navionics mobile app, I just pulled this up. I'm basically on the screen from where we were teaching here. If you look up here in the top left-hand corner, you're going to see a little camera button. And what you can do is you can actually take, and it's going to ask me if I allow it to take a picture. So I'm going to allow it to take a picture. And say right now, Scott just caught a big old fish and wants to show it off. So we're gonna actually take a picture of my duck on the ceiling here. So if you can see, there's a picture of the duck. We're gonna save it. And now if we go back to where we are, what that'll do is that will save in the location where we're at here. I'm gonna go back to my house because this is where it's gonna show. And if you zoom in, you can see there's a little camera icon. Now, just the way we mark a waypoint, you tap this, bring up that spot, hover it over. It says photo 3. We're going to tap on that, and you see it's going to bring up photo 3. Now, click on it, and there's the picture. So if we were out at a hot spot fishing, say Chuck was, we're up there in New Hampshire with Chuck, fishing for some togue. No, that's up in Maine, right? Fishing for some lake trout or something on Winnie, and we catch a picture of the fish. We can take a picture of that, and it will show up right there in that exact location. What's neat is you can actually go back and you can edit that, and you can write in more information. If you want to, bring that up, you can type in that was, caught in such and such bait. The water temperature was such and such, and so the answer to your question, Chuck, is yes,
Yep.
you can do that.
Okay, so we got a couple other great questions. So there's John is in Manitoba, and he said he fishes Lake Winnipeg. Unfortunately, because the lake clarity is good, sometimes it's tough, and he wants some baits. I didn't quite catch a question in there, John, but you're right. So one of the things that we try to figure out is what are the fish actually eating, and and it doesn't matter whether it's Winnipeg or whatever it is. So if you can try to take a look at the food chain and then try to mimic it as closely as you can, both with action and with the actual size and the shape of the bait itself, that's where we start to do a little bit better. So what does that look like? Sometimes that looks like, Jamie, if you can you grab my screen back? Can you put my screen back for a minute, please?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to also, Wayne, I'm going to get to you too, so hang on for just a minute if you can. I'm going to show my screen and see what I got going here.
Hey, look at that good looking dude. Oh.
Yeah. So Wayne also had a good question about, you can see the structure and you can see the structure from up above, but it doesn't really prove what the bottom is and what the bottom looks like. So underwater cameras go a long way with that, and really kind of since the advent of underwater cameras, we've been able to get a better picture of all of these things. So all of the videos that I'm going to show you will give us kind of indications as to how and what we see. So you guys are watching a video in the center of the screen now. So there's freshwater shrimp here. So what you'll see is over here, you'll see shrimp darting in and around these weeds. So this is a down view with an underwater camera. We still can't see the bottom like what Wayne is asking for, but we get a better indication that the fish are eating freshwater shrimp. So those freshwater shrimp, how we mimic that best is to switch to perhaps like a drop shot. It seems like we all fish drop shot all year long, but then somehow magically we forget that drop shot is magical in the wintertime. So this is a different down view of drop shot. So that's just a weighted jig, no jig, but a weight on the bottom and like a 12 or 14 scud hook. It's a deadly presentation because it really doesn't take much to get the fish. And I'm going to show you again. I have another one here of how little it actually takes to get fish, a drop shot jig, into a fish's mouth. So they're coming in and they're just basically swimming, barely opening their mouth. That was a bass, it was. And while we're looking at this, Jamie, when you talked about those sparse weeds, those simple sparse weeds out in the middle of a body of water, this underwater footage, there's literally one standing weed left in this body of water, but I was fishing around it because there was nothing left there. And again, an underwater camera can help us find that underwater piece. So that drop shot, that absence of weight of a jig head, will allow you to sometimes mimic an underwater shrimp. What do those underwater shrimp actually look like? So later in the season, as they're starting to go more towards, I'm not sure if you guys can see this yet or not.
It's a little blurry there.
I'm not seeing it.
There's
that one's a little bit blurry. Let me try.
Sky.
Okay, so there's a little bit of lag there. That's why. I got you. So here's another one. And let me see if I can. These are the size of those underwater shrimp. You can see that's in the palm of my hand. So these things go from a flat swimming creature like those things that were actually on my palm of my hand before. So those scuds are something that happens about midterm when we first start, and especially the Winnipeg walleyes, when we first start fishing. Our first pattern really is bloodworms, which should be coming up here. It should be hitting your thing shortly. And even though these are very small in Winnipeg, walleyes can be absolute monsters. I've caught literally 7 to 9 pound fish. I live right between Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. 7 to 9 pound fish just chucked full of these, and we know that they eat them because they spit them up. So my typical wintertime pattern, as I'm working through what am I going to fish with, go ahead and take this greenback, Jamie. What am I going to fish with? We'll start with a bloodworm pattern, work towards a year of young pattern. That year of young sometimes is small perch, small bluegills, anything in that's just a recent hatch. So that'll happen in that middle time. I just put up a picture of a bunch of small perch that just about everything will eat. Perch will eat perch, bluegills will eat bluegills, crappies will eat everything. So that midwinter season, you switch to kind of that to match the hatch. You want to go to more of a minnow or a small fish presentation. From there, we'll start to get into the shrimp because the shrimp start to vacate the weeds and move around. But all of these things play into this, all of these bugs play into this aquatic world that the bugs, and that's a whole nother kind of podcast that, maybe we should do it sometime in just aquatic insects. But there's so many of them that we could talk about all of them. So in a clear water lake, in a clear situation, it just depends on what they're feeding on, John. But what I'll start with typically in a clearer lake is a more natural color because I want to match not only the action that the bait, and that is going to be based on what's coming out of the fish's mouth. So I want to match that action, how I deliver it with a jig, perhaps with a drop shot. And then I want to start with the most natural looking bait that I can. So I won't go with real bright colors in that situation, but it's kind of just the opposite. Jamie and I fish, one of our favorite first ice places is a backset, and that's real dingy in there. Like you maybe be able to see, 16, 18 inches would be the top end. And so then we'll, start to fish a few more glow, or we'll start to fish some pink or chartreuse, something like that. But colors, is again, it's a whole nother kind of side subject too. As far as clues from the bottom, Wayne, in your question, underwater cameras, since they were cheap enough to not get a divorce for having one, I've kind of I've owned one, and they're much better than they ever used to be. And they're a great scouting tool, even in the open water. So it's not like you're just buying this tool, spending the money on this piece of equipment that you're going to have and only use for a small portion of time. You should have that camera in your boat with you, because a lot of times on bigger waters, you'll see a mat of whatever it is down there, but you don't really know what it is until you drop inside of it. I was literally just doing this. We were out fishing for crappies and bluegills, and we weren't getting the size we wanted. Those big fish were there. We just weren't able to get to them because there were so many small ones eating. So that really does take the learning curve and the kind of the question marks that are in the back of your mind about, whether it's a bottom question or whether it's what they're feeding on, any of those things. So great questions from both you guys.
So we got a couple more questions that have come up now, Scott. And it's funny for me, it's really small to see the words in this thing, but it says, let's see, sorry I missed most of this. What are the key points you look for on a topo before you hit the lake? Now that really depends on where we're fishing, or what we're fishing for and where we're fishing. I know it depends on if you're fishing a small body of water and maybe it's a basin lake, you're looking for perch, you're looking for crappies midwinter. Most of those fish, because of, like Scott says, what they're feeding on, are all out in that basin. So I would be looking for big areas that are the deepest water, maybe not over 50 feet, anything under 50 feet or so, but those big areas that are, could be a long stretch, could be right down the center of it, could be an elbow shape, anything like that. But if we're fishing, per se a bowl or something that's going to have a basin in the center of it, we're looking for crappies and perch. That's pretty much where we're going to be looking for. We will look for like weed edges and things like that, but it seems like in the wintertime, a lot more of your smaller fish happen to be in there in those nurseries. I don't know if you find the same thing out there in New York, Scott. When you got a basin lake, a lot of the times those weed edges, you're getting, maybe smaller fish, at least during the thick of the winter and stuff. Maybe as the time moves on and fish are moving in closer to shore. But
Right. So for me, it turns into a feeding pattern situation, which almost everything does, because I think about the food that the fish are eating so often to try to interrupt that process. So even when I'm looking at a topo map, which I don't do as much as I used to, topo maps can be as much as 20 years old. So the Navionics app helps me a lot with this. I'll start to look at I'll start to look for structures one of the things that Jamie was talking about is like inside turns, that kind of stuff. So he and I were out fishing last winter. We were out on Oneida Lake in New York State, and we had kind of lost the walleye bite because it's a big basin, and these fish were, kind of spread out. So they came under us, they went away, and we're trying to track where they were heading to so that we can put a picture in our mind together where how we're gonna interrupt that and how we're gonna get to these fish. So we both pulled out our Navionics map and we said, okay, these have got to be the areas in which they're going to. You go to point 1, 2, and 3 like you would on a topo map, right? Like what did we used to do? Like on a topo map, we used to go, okay, between the green cottage and the pink cottage, we want to be out about this far from the thing. Well, now we can walk right up to those spots, literally. So what Jamie and I did working together as partners is you go to this point and this point. I'm going to go to this point and this point. I'm going to text you in a minute and tell you if the fish are there. So then we could kind of stay ahead of the fish a little bit more. We were chasing them down, and that was a perch bite that we're trying to chase. And so those types of things work well to do that. But again, the topo map and using the Navionics app to look for structure underneath, a lot of times those travel corridors, those food pockets, because the difference to me is a travel corridor is kind of like how fish get to breakfast. The food pockets are those pockets of whatever it is. So for in the early season, it's going to be a bloodworm hatch usually. Then in the middle of the season, it's going to be kind of a young bite. And later in the season, it turns into whatever the aquatic insects are kind of turning into and how they're vacating and moving through there. So you kind of follow through their travel patterns, just trying to stay up with the food. If you can stay with the food, you will stay with the fish. In many cases, we've all seen this where we're fishing and we're on a weed bed that looks great and we're catching fish the day before, and the next day it's like it's the Dead Sea out there. Well, very typically what happens is that food chain has actually left that weed bed, and so we have to find where they're heading to, and that's where a topo map, and that's where the Navionics app comes in to help us all with that.
So I had somebody ask about artificial weeds, so probably like real weeds or stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a
Yep.
bunch of artificial structure. So
Yep.
I know for me, I have summertime. You come here, you come do a crappie trip with me. We're going to be fishing structure on Lake Champlain. Those same structures, hundreds of structures that we catch fish on consistently day to day are useless for me in the wintertime. There is just no fish there because the food is not there anymore. They're not there hiding. They're not there trying to keep cool. The bait's not around it. The bait's moved on. So that's a good actually to show how you were saying how if the food moves, they move. There's no food on that structure in the wintertime. So for me, I don't. I know there is in some deep water clear lakes, the fish do attract to some of the structures, but for us, mostly, fishing on Lake Champlain and stuff in this area, they just do not hold to the artificial weeds. How about you, Scott? I know you got some in the.
Yeah, but so I agree with some of that, but my reality too sometimes is you can give the fish something to come over and look at. So if I'm on a basin bite where there's really nothing to do, and I'm trying to find a good video of it here while I'm talking, but sometimes what those real weeds do, and I do use them occasionally, not real often, but if I'm in a basin bite where there's nothing around, it'll bring fish in so that they stay there and take a look a little bit. If it's legal, you can chum those weeds. So if you crush up a bunch of, and you got to again check your local regulations because you may not even be able to put real weeds down there. But the way they typically work is you drop them down with a fishing line. So I'll crush a bunch of waxworms on it, drop them down, and then rip it. So you've got all that food in there. So you can sometimes double or triple your take using something artificial if it's legal in your area like that, because the fish will just be there a little bit longer cleaning up that stuff that came off those weeds. But you're absolutely right. If there's no food there, there's no reason for them to be there. They will scoop by and take a look. It's like that stupid, ugly single weed that I caught that bass off of earlier. That even that scraggly looking weed will sometimes, produce for you. But again, it's it's something worth trying, especially in a tough situation.
Yeah, so it's like a 1-2 punch. For say like that straggly weed that you had there, that could have been holding some minnows, or there was some food that was attached to that, so that could be it. So if you're gonna try that, definitely try the 1-2 punch of also having some food and some stuff there. Let's see
Yeah,
here.
if you can chum, yeah, if you can chum, it makes sometimes all the difference in the world.
Hey, did everybody hear Scott Brower saying use live bait? Oh,
I did. I'll tell you what, if I'm fishing one of your tournaments or anywhere in the world where I'm fishing for money against someone else, I will always have wax worms in my pocket, and I will always have red spikes. You guys can mark that down. Go ahead, quote me.
all right. So
It's the
have you
truth.
ever used
They
artificial
don't
light?
always want it, but sometimes they do.
How about dirty northeast lake patterns? So if I understand you, the preference for mid-season is small minnows type, and late ice season gravitate to bugs larvae. What is your suggestion for early ice? You want to start?
Early ice and stained, yeah, early ice and stained water. Do you want to go with that first one, and then I'll finish up. I'm looking for a video,
Okay, early
so you
ice,
start with.
stained water, depends on how deep it is. I'm looking for probably fish in the weed edges. I'm gonna probably be using soft plastic. See, I don't use too much live bait. The only time I really use live bait during the whole course of the winter is the good old white crappie bite. We have a white crappie bite here that comes about mid-season and finishes off all the way into the fall. And sometimes they're tipping with a minnow head or a fat head can just be the key. So that's about the only time I'm using it. So if I'm starting off early season, I'm probably using something small. I'm using maybe a Mackie plastic, maybe a regular size Jamie. Could be using like a TOI. Wormy and Spiky are probably some of my favorite go-tos, as well as like a mini Mackie. So I'm fishing pretty small still, the beginning of the season personally myself.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna again try to get a hint from the fish, because listening to chubby guys on the internet is one thing, but listen from fish. And one of the things you can do for yourself that makes a lot of sense is you've got a 5-gallon pail. If you're gonna wind up doing it anyways, if you look in the bottom of a tournament bucket as opposed to the bucket we just throw our fish in like normally when we're ice fishing, and we're speaking of specifically ice fishing, but this also translates into your live well. So if you add some water to it, if you look in the bottom of the buckets that Jamie weighs at his tournament series, you'll find little aquatic insects, all the stuff that the fish spit out. Within 15, 20 minutes, they're going to spit most of what they just ate out. That's a great way to take a look at what you should be fishing with down there. And I don't care if it's stingy water, because if they're in there eating those, if they're mixed right in tight to the weeds and they're eating little shells and crustaceans off of there, well, you could say that you could brighten it up and maybe that would attract some fish because they're hungry. But and the reality is, the more you can match the color and the more you can match the action of that bait, the better it is. And a great way to get that indication is, with a perch, you can usually squeeze them right behind the gill plates and shake their head real hard. And if you do that, they'll spit out whatever they had in their hand. But almost all fish, when you put them into water out there in the cold, they'll expel just about everything, same as your live well. Look in the bottom of your live well for clues. Look in the bottom of that bucket for clues. And I do that at the beginning of every tournament, because then I know more what I should be putting on. I'm a firm believer in matching the hatch. I'm not that great of a fisherman, so I've got to take every clue from a fish that I can get.
Okay. So it says, hey guys, I have a Navionics Platinum card. Can I use fishing ranges on my GPS unit? So the whole multicolored fishing ranges, like you saw me do in that video, you cannot do that. We're ready for it, but that's actually up to the companies that own the fish finders to allow that to be able to happen. I do know on my Lowrance unit, I do have the capability of doing one depth range. So I can't do the multiple shadings, but I can do, I'm lake trout fishing right now, so I want to look for maybe 85 to 95 feet of water or 105 feet of water. I can outline that one area on my Lowrance unit. So that is something that everybody really wants to happen, and hopefully it will happen, but I can't tell you when that could happen.
Let me jump in here real quick because this just happened to me. So I was on Ottertail Lake in Minnesota last week. We were fishing for walleyes, and I was fishing with a great guy, Mike Firsch, and he had his Navionics pulled up. And this gets to Gord Fraser's question, which is Winnipeg Lake Navionics is not quite as accurate as the U.S. maps are. And this can be true. I've found this to be true in just about any lake, especially smaller lakes that don't get updated quite as much. But kind of what Jamie was talking about too. So what I did is I had just updated my phone app. So I pulled my phone app and we're running it literally side by side with the Navionics chip, and we can see a significant difference between the two pieces. So updating that and it's another, from my opinion, point to get the Navionics updated app for your phone, because there's how many updates a day, Jamie?
So Navionics right now, we're currently processing about 2,000 updates per day. And I see, it looks like you're probably coming off from where it says Winnipeg Lake not as accurate as US maps. Now, Gord, I'm curious if you're still on here, when is the last time, do you have a older Navionics chip or do you have something that's newer? And when's the last time you've done updates? And if you do have an older one, I encourage you to go to navionics.com and pull up the web app. And what that'll do is that'll give you the most updated version that there is. So take and check that out. If you're running anything old,
Yeah,
it's a very good possibility.
he said no, it's new, but he did answer you, but he said no, it's new. So that is a new one. So that's just a lake that apparently there's not a lot of updates on it. Yeah. Yep.
He has updated
So
it since he's got the thing.
He said, yeah, he said it's a new unit. Yep.
Yeah, even if it's a new unit, you definitely have to go online and register, because if you get a new unit and a new card, it may be behind on those updates. So definitely want to go in if you haven't done that and do that. And if for some reason it doesn't match as well as you want, right now there's an awesome thing called Sonar Chart Live, and I believe Scott and I, we've been talking about this. We're gonna start doing some more of these webinars, and we're really going to pick apart subjects. I mean, it's 9:07 now, so we're over an hour here. It's awesome to see there's still 22 people that are hanging in here and in with us. But we're going to try to pick certain topics, keep them to around a half hour, 45 minutes at the most, and really just start slamming these webinars out and picking topics and really focusing on one thing and giving you as much information as we can on that. So I think Sonar Chart Live will be one that we really can do. And that's something that everybody can do. Tomorrow, while I'm out in my boat, I'm running Sonar Chart Live. I'm making maps better every day. And you could do that for as little as $150 Vexilar sonar phone. You could be out there doing the same thing, making maps better. So that's something that we definitely will talk about in the upcoming. Or you could send either of us an email. I'm Vladyka at Navionics.com, or Scott, and we can get you some more information on how to do that.
Yeah, Gord, you're right. It's a huge body of water, and I find the same thing on Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. I'll find an awful lot of stuff that's never mapped. I think the charter captains have it because I see those guys fishing it, but I know that I haven't had it yet. So sometimes that's just the reality of it. So here's what I'm going to do from the Mackie Plastic. We got 22 people. I'm going to give a bag of bait to everybody. All you got to do is just send me your address to Scott, SCOTT, at Mackie Plastic, MAKIPLASTIC.com. And any of our Canadian brothers or sisters that are out there listening tonight too, I'm going to send you actually 2 bags because I know how hard the stuff is to get up north. And so as long as I'm mailing stuff to you, I'm going to mail 2 bags at the same time. So if you're not Canadian and you're American, you'll have to see me out on the ice and shake me down for some extra bait, I
guess. That's awesome. So I know personally, I want to thank all of you for hanging in here. Scott, any way you can pull up on your screen, possibly your email address, or maybe put that in the chat so people will have that?
Sure. I'll put it in the chat so people can have that. But it's only going to be, make sure you send me this. Yeah, make sure you send me this email tonight, because I'm only going to do this tonight, because once this goes out, I'm not going to do that for the people who didn't stick in with it for the video, because I just can't do that for everybody. But for everybody that's stuck with us tonight, I will put it out there, but it's Scott at MackeyPlastic.com.
I'm going to screenshot.
So by midnight tonight, send me your email. I'm putting it right in the questions thing right now.
Yeah, I'm going to screenshot all the names so we know exactly who is here.
You got one. Thanks. Yeah, anybody that wants to send me the email, send it tonight. And I just sent my email address to everybody, and I'm happy to get you guys some bait in your hands. Once again, I can't thank you guys enough for hanging with us tonight. I know there's probably more questions that need to be answered, but as Jamie said, we're going to try to get to these and pick them off one at a time as we go through. We've got more information to share. We'd be happy to hear what your ideas would be for a show, so you can send me that information too, send Jamie that information, and we'll all get together again soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. God bless.